What is happening, everybody? It's your boys, Steve Straza, Sean McLaughlin. This is the Flow Show. After a week off, we were in California last week this time, getting some rays at a conference, which is an unusual thing. But Straza, how you doing over there?
We take a week off and we forget how to do this.
Yeah, we're a little late today. We apologize for those of you who logged in right at the bottom of the hour. We're having a little technical difficulties. We seem to have forgotten how to use all our equipment, but we figured it out.
Yeah. Hey, we went away for a week, and I gotta tell you, this is the best list I've seen in a long time.
Ooh, I'm excited. So let's get into it. Let's pull up that the latest list, the Follow the Flow report, because this is what we do here, guys. The Follow the Flow show the Flow show is we dig into the Follow the Flow report to see what kind of unusual options activity is happening, and if that can lead us down the road to an options trade or any type of trade. So what do you got, Straza? What's got you excited?
So, we've been talking a lot these past couple of weeks, even months, going back to about July, about this rotation taking place, mostly it being a commodity stock story more than a value story, right? Energy looks really good. Everybody's aware of what crude oil's been doing these past couple of weeks, but it's bigger than just energy, right? It's raw material stocks, base metals names. And we got a couple of them on our list today. The first one that really stood out was Teck Resources. Throw a chart up here. Nice big base, right? So Teck is an industrial metal type play, decent size name. So that one stood out. We go back to our list. We also had some energy. Range Resources is a nice looking chart. RRC, Arch Resources. So coal, go there. So a lot of this commodity stock theme really shows on this list this week. And I like that because that's, I think, where the best opportunities are right now. Before we jump into them, though, let me just talk about Hut Mining. So Hut popped out. It was on here back early last week, September 12th. Calls, $2 strike, October 20th, 2023. What do you think about that, Sean?
Well, let's let me open up the options chain here. The October 2 calls,
yeah,
trading currently 41 cents. I mean, those options are 22 cents in the money right now. So you're basically paying 20 cents a premium to buy the 2 strike calls. Where was the action? Where were they bought? Do you have that in the deck?
What they paid?
Yeah.
No, we don't include that.
Right.
Nope.
And what kind of volume was that?
100,000.
Why am I not seeing it?
No, 10,000. 10,000 contracts.
Okay, well, look, 10,000 calls purchased sometimes raises an eyebrow, certainly. But I'm looking at this thing and $10,000. I mean, even if they paid 40 cents, what's that? 40 grand investment. That's not that crazy.
Yeah, not crazy.
No. Although I'm noticing, Straza, you said they bought 10 grand.
Yeah, 10,000 contracts.
Well, they must already be out because look at my open interest. I'm showing open interest here of 7,100 contracts.
Really?
So they must have flipped it.
Yep. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
In and out, man. They were in and out, hot market. I mean, you know what? They were probably, you said that was on the 12th?
Yep.
I'm looking at my chart here. If Gene, if you could bring up my chart. On the 12th here, we had a little intraday spike. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. So right here, this is the 12th. Maybe we had this little intraday spike. It was making a 3-4 day high. Somebody was getting aggressive. The thing quickly rolled over, and maybe it was just a quick little opportunistic trade, and now they're out. Again, it wasn't that huge of a bet considering the cost of those options.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And I look at the miners today. We talked about them briefly on the morning show this morning. I got the Hut 8 mining chart up here. Listen, first of all, disclaimer, this is like a $500 million name, so it's not for everybody, okay? Second of all, Riot and Mara, they're bigger, they're more liquid, and at least Riot is cleaner. But from a tape reading perspective, not only has the price action just been terrible in these names for a while now, since middle of summer, but Bitcoin's ripping today, and they're barely moving.
Yeah, that's a real head scratcher, man, because Mara and Riot really ripped for us early summer. We got extremely bullish on those names. We got rolled over on them, which sucks, but they were ripping when Bitcoin was first ripping back in the summer, and you would think that it would do the same thing today, but charts are telling a different story. I wonder why that's different. I have no idea.
I don't like that. Typically, as with, any of these kinds of stocks that trade based on the underlying of something else, I'm thinking about like gold miners, energy stocks. You should get more juice or more beta in these equities, right? And we've seen that. We talk about how the beta on, Mara Riot is 3 or 4x Bitcoin. So seeing Bitcoin up 3% today and these things really doing close to nothing, don't love that. We'll continue to keep an eye on them, but for now, I would say, we pass on this. Also, Sean, you always point out this is a $2 stock. So I don't think you really need the options market for something like HUT.
No, if you're bullish HUT, why not just buy the common for $2.20? You have an infinite holding period, right? You don't have to worry about theta decay. You don't have to worry about expiration. Just pay $2. Size your position, in such a way that, if you want to be aggressive, just size it that you're going to lose 100%. Is the stock going to go to zero on your watch? Probably not. But even if it does, it's so cheap, you can afford to take a flyer and just, if it has a big loss, just, as long as you size your position properly, you're okay. The way I would do it, Straza, like if I were, and by the way, I don't love this chart, so I am not buying this one here. But if I were to buy it, I would probably buy it and size my position with my stop being about $1.50. If it lost $1.50, I'm out. That's where I would place my stop loss.
Fine. We just and thanks for pointing out that the chart is terrible. It's making like 3-month lows today. This thing has really come off. Lost more than 50%? Yeah, more than 50% just since the summer. So not great, right? And then again, we talk about the Bitcoin price action. These guys aren't buying it today. You have a clean level here at about 250 if you throw my chart up, Gene. The market continues to tell us this 250 level is important. We had a big day last month. We ran right through it and then failed right back below. Get this little short-term trend line break drawn here in blue, get back above 250, then maybe you get some sort of, bull hook squeeze higher. Then I might like it, but not until then. And there's work to do.
Well, clearly what the options flow report is telling us is that there are active speculators in this name looking to make a quick buck. I think that's what that big block trade was last week, because it's already closed, whatever it was. So, hey, that means people are watching this name. And if nothing else, that's what the flow report is telling us this week, right? It's like, it's not really telling us that anyone's getting aggressively positioned right now, but it's telling us if people are watching, they've got it on their radar. And if this thing moves, it could really rip. That's my takeaway.
I'm with you. Let's move on. Not taking this one here this week. What do you want? Coal or metals? I brought along 2 charts.
Hit me with some metals. I want to see what's going on in metals.
I like it. So this is Teck Resources. They're hitting the 43 strike calls October 20th. Big old base here. I love that the relative trend shown here in the lower pane is really setting up too. I like it when the relative trend kind of mirrors the absolute trend, because I can use I can look at them and say, okay, if one of these patterns breaks out, the other one should break out too. They're not going to move in different directions, right? So looks like we're just a moments away from getting some sort of confirmation from the relative trend here. That would, take the form of a base breakout here from this black line in the lower pane. And in that environment, I would expect Teck to be getting back above its pivot highs. You could use like 41 here, but really I would want to see confirmation at, what are those pivot highs? Let's pull this up quick. For me, really, you want confirmation, call it, the pivot highs here from July, about 45.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm liking about this chart is if this thing gets rolling, I mean, 74 looks like like it could happen, at least 70. And from here, that's a big move. And one thing to be aware of is we do have earnings coming up, not too soon, 5 weeks from now, October 26th. That will play into things, which it might explain why. If you look at my chart, Gene, I've got the chart up here. You can see the implied volatility chart at the bottom of my screen, this blue line. It's been trending lower all year. It's just kind of upticked a little bit over the last week or so. That might be the beginning of of an earnings pump. I think it might be a little early for that just yet. But if you want a position in this name, this is a good time to buy calls because volatility is very cheap. And if you want to kind of minimize the earnings effect, maybe you go further out in time, maybe go into January. And I mean, look, you could buy the 45 calls for 315 right now. I don't hate that. I mean, like I said, if this thing runs, 70 could be in our sights pretty quickly. This would be a huge win.
And Sean, this is when you want to go further out on. Like I would even like consider like leaps in something like this, right? Because just the price structure of it ripped off the COVID lows, almost 10x, then just straight sideways for over a year, right? Doing absolutely nothing, digesting gains. When this thing gets going again, we would imagine it resolves higher in the direction of the underlying trend. And like I said, 10x off the lows in 2020, this is a commodity stock. So it's going to move.
No, I like it. And Straza, I don't know if you know this, but this morning, or actually you and I talked a little bit about a trade that I'm putting on for All-Star Option subscribers.
Yeah.
The operation for us for the last month or so, as I've been primarily putting on delta neutral trades because we've been in a sideways grind, and I expect that to continue for at least a few more weeks. However, what we are starting to see now is a lot of stocks are starting to reveal that they could potentially be leaders for the next leg up. We're starting to see a lot of stocks hold some key levels. And I'm starting to keep an eye out for names that are displaying those characteristics and maybe jumping ahead a little bit, getting positioned long for that next leg higher in the stock market. Now, we could be totally wrong. Stock market could roll over and take all these stocks with it. But if we do think that the market resolves higher, which I think you and I are in agreement that it eventually does, we want to be positioned in the leading names. Yep. And a stock like Tech is showing that it could potentially be a leader. There's a bunch of others that are really shaping up. And I'm not getting aggressively long yet, Straza, but I got my radar up and I'm watching the stocks like this. So I like this name. This is a good one.
There are some really constructive consolidations out there. And Tech's a great example. Let's hit Arch before we hop off here.
Okay.
So, coal stocks have been red hot. We've talked about this. We've been pretty obnoxious about this for over a month now. That energy looks ready, and it's these alternative energy plays that look most ready, right? You're talking about leaders, the ones that are resolving higher first. In energy, you could argue that stuff like uranium or even coal. So here's our custom coal index that we had to make since they delisted our coal ETF a few years back. New all-time highs, Sean. I mean, this group is doing really well right now. This is actually a catch-up trade. So here's Arch, not exactly one of the leaders, but I mean, last week, this thing went nuts. So maybe kind of chasing over the short run here. It is totally overbought and stretched it a little bit. But if you go further out, we were talking about possibly leaps or something that, really gives these patterns time with Tech. I think you would want to do the same thing here with Arch.
If this Arch can kind of stay in this level, maybe hold above 155, maybe even above 150 for the next, let's say, I don't know, 2-3 weeks.
Yep.
You're going to get all the Bill O'Neill IBD people all excited about that cup and handle pattern forming right there.
Yep, you're right. And you're also right, Sean. Let it cool off. Give this thing a few weeks. After the run it made last week, I don't even know. There was no news. I mean, this thing was just ripping. It was up 5%. And 5% back-to-back days. I mean, big week. And if you look at, again, the leaders in the space, they've already made new all-time highs. For something like Arch, that you're looking at about 180. So the options traders here were getting involved in October 20th, 155. It's pretty much right at the money when they got into them.
Yep, that feels like an aggressive bet. That open interest is still live there. So people are positioning and holding that position. So yeah, man, look, I like that. We're going to let our hot coals cool a little bit. Let it simmer. And then we're going to barbecue into fall with Arch Resource. You like how I did that? You see how I did that?
I did. That was clever.
All right, folks, there's a couple ideas for you kicking around. This has been the Flow Show. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry about our technical difficulties getting started, but hopefully we gave you some things to think about. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, catch us tomorrow on the morning show. Me, Straza, JC, we'll be there. Hope you will be too. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.